Welcome to Encounter, where we celebrate putting faith into action and community leaders who live out compassion, grace, and love. We're a program of the Broome County Council of Churches that addresses food insecurity through CHOW and the Greater Good Grocery, provides hospital and jail ministry, builds wheelchair ramps, and assists neighbors with transportation and shopping services through Faith in Action volunteers. We invite you to the conversation. Encounter your neighbors as we learn to walk together in love and kindness.
Friends, welcome to the Encounter program sponsored by the Broome County Council of Churches. I am your host, Mark Kimpland, the senior pastor at the Endwell United Methodist Church. This show is somewhat bittersweet for me because this will be my final show hosting the Encounter program, as it is my intention that I've expressed also to the good folks at the Endwell United Methodist Church to retire in July of 2025. And so I'm trying to take some things off my calendar over the next 6 months as we work through this time of transition, but I'll say more about that later in our show here today. But I'm glad that you are with us. I'm ending my time as the host of the Encounter program kind of where it started, about 11 and a half years ago. My wife and I had just moved into the area, and Dave Alexander, who is a member of the Endwell United Methodist Church and a former host of the Encounter program, invited us both on to introduce us to the community, to share a little bit about ourselves, to get our face and message out and about, and that was a great blessing to us. But I made one gaffe when that happened, however. I told my wife, who is going to be the guest on our show this morning, my wife Lynne Kimpland, who has served for almost 40 years as children and youth ministry directors. I told her when Dave invited us to the program that I was unaware that it was a television program. I told her it was just a radio program, and that didn't go over real well, and I haven't quite lived that down ever since that time. So I'm doing a redo here. I invited my wife Lynne to come on the show and just to kind of have a time to chat over 40 years of local church ministry, and more specifically about your work with children and youth. So after 11 and a half years, here we are again.
We certainly are.
One more time.
Yes.
So let me start here, and this is going to be kind of freewheeling, and this is going to be kind of off the cuff, and just a conversation between my wife Lynne and I about ministry and all the wonderful challenges and joys that we've experienced over that time. But during our 40 years in ministry, you have taken many capacities with children and youth ministry at many different times. Sometimes it was a fill-in gap kind of thing. At times you were hired because you were at the right place at the right time, and you were the person to do it. I guess my question would be, as we begin our time together, why? Why are you so passionate about children's and youth ministry? You've been doing it for almost 50 years. What's in the heart and the spirit of the why you are so passionate about this?
I think it all has to start when I was young. Although I grew up right across the street from a church, I grew up Catholic, we weren't a church-going family. And there wasn't, and with all due respect to my parents, they did the best they could do. There wasn't a whole lot of love and connection in our home. And I grew up, I can remember being very young, probably at the age of 10, trying to form little clubhouse groups in our neighborhood with the other kids, and directing all that and putting fun things together for them to do, and just to form that connection and to have fun as a group. And I think that carried over with me through my high school years. I was always feeling the need to uplift other people because I felt I didn't get that at home. And so as I went on to college, and then I met you, and we went into ministry together, I guess I wanted to create an environment for kids a safe place for kids to come, to have fun, and to understand the love of God, and to make that connection so that they would have that grounding in their lives.
I remember you telling me many times the story of you as a child going to that church across the street and sitting alone. How were you made to feel when you're 10 years old and you're sitting alone in church and going through the Mass alone and leaving alone? Did that play a part in?
Yeah, there was many Sundays that I had this, I wanted to learn about God, but I would go to church and I would sit in a pew by myself. I would look up at the statue of Jesus hanging on the cross, and I would wonder about God. How could a loving father do that to their son? And so my ideas about God growing up were a little bit different, and I didn't really understand that love. And all those years that I would go to church and sit there, nobody would come up to me and put their arm around me and ask me who I was and if I needed to understand God in a little bit better way. They didn't have Sunday school or anything at that church. And I would always remember leaving church thinking and wondering about this God that is supposed to love. And so, of course, as I grew up and met you and started going to your church, it was a whole different environment. I remember sitting in church, and the pastor, who happened to be Reverend Love, at the time would ask the congregation if there was any prayer concerns. And I nudged you and said, "Is he talking to us?" Because it was just so different growing up in the Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm. You give the real life testimony of being a child alone, not knowing, not feeling welcomed, and that is certainly a huge wake-up call, I think, to the present-day church, that there are people, young and old and everything in the middle, that are there, and that time in worship could be very easily the longest hour of their week if they don't feel accepted, if they don't feel welcomed, and all of that. So I can only imagine the loneliness of that time. Let me ask you this. Since day one, when we traveled down to Maryland and pastored and worked in the Dickerson United Methodist Church for 3.5 years while I went to seminary, followed by 6.5 years at Seneca Castle United Methodist Church, then on to the First United Methodist Church of Fulton for 18 years, and now in our 12th year here at Endwell. You have literally ministered to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of children and youth in the community. What's been the greatest joy in doing that? And I'd like to go on the flip side of that too. What's been one of the most difficult parts of ministering to children and youth and their families?
I would have to say my greatest joy is watching a child come to understand the love of God and how they were uniquely created. And just recently, for example, I took 17 of our youth through a confirmation class for 8 weeks. And they ranged in ages from 5th grade up to, I think, 9th grade. And they were just so engaged. And they asked questions. And when I heard their faith testimonies, and because you never know when you're ministering to a child what's connecting with them and what are they learning, until you hear them express their testimonies. And it just touched my heart to hear some of their stories and throughout the years, you and I know that we would have youth through social media, Facebook, reconnect with us and tell us some of the things that touch their hearts. Our very first church, we had a young boy at that time, Clifton, who is now raising his own kids, who every once in a while reaches out, and that was how many years ago?
Well, that was about 35 years ago.
35 years ago. He's raising his own children now and trying to find a church that he grew up in.
Right.
So, and that's what touches my heart.
What about the flip side? The hope has always been in our ministry that wherever we find ourselves, that we create an environment that is safe for people, safe to ask questions, safe to doubt, safe to ponder, discern, and such. What has been the biggest challenge in children's and youth ministry over the years? Are there certain challenges?
I think the biggest challenge is to press upon parents and coaches and people who are working with children the importance of having them have a faith foundation so that they're rooted and grounded. And with everything now that a child has options to go to, it's hard to press upon the importance and the priority of their faith and how that can guide them through their lives, and to put a priority on that. It always seems like at this point in ministry, I'm working around their schedules. And nothing to say about sports. I think sports are important. Both of our kids played sports on Sunday, and so we would learn to maneuver around that and work through that. But I think that it's important in a child's life to have that foundation and to understand that there's a God that loves them and is with them, and that they can go to in times of trouble and lean on for strength.
Yeah, we talked about it a lot, just in conversations we've had over the years. There's a lot clamoring in their lives for especially young families and kids and youth with all kinds of things that draw their attention, and to make their faith and their spirituality a priority rather than something you get to if there's more time in the week left over. That certainly has been a challenge. I'd like to ask this. This one I didn't talk to you about.
Okay, you're going to throw something at me?
I'm just reflecting on these 40 years of the things that we've done with the children and youth, and you've organized 99.9% of all of that, from campouts with the kids and such things. And boy, I now understand why you do that younger when you're at a younger age. But to mission opportunities, we've taken them to concerts, we've done the bowling and the skating and the going out for breakfasts and mission projects and 30-hour famines and rise against hungers and all of that. Is there things that you kind of remember fondly? I know there's some things we don't remember as fondly, but were there certain events, certain things that we did over the years, over in the 4 churches that we've served that you just thought were really cool, that really connected with the kids and you connected with it, and that was a holy, sacred time?
I think in all of our churches, especially when I went to organize the very first Christmas musical, I would have people in the congregation come up to me and say, "You're never going to get those kids to sing or to dance or to memorize lines." And there was this fight within me that, I will. You will see that I will have kids singing and dancing, and I loved it when people challenged me like that. So I guess it was just to show that the kids are capable, and they can learn a lot from doing something like that. The sense of camaraderie and getting together and doing something as a group, and whether it's Christmas musicals or doing a mission project. I think out of all the years at each of the churches, I had challenges. And it wasn't with the kids, it was mostly with the adults. that I had to kind of work through to kind of change their paradigms of how important some of the ministries and the things that we were doing with the children were.
Yeah.
I remember at this church, as a matter of fact, at the Endwell church, we took the kids on a retreat to, I think it was Refreshing Mountain.
Yeah.
And it was a obstacle, like a high wire obstacle course that we had. It was challenged, and then we had to zip line through the woods, and how many of the kids did that, and then the others that chose not to do the high wire, and to just challenge them, to have them step outside of their boxes and do something that might be a little frightening or different.
Yeah. Friends, our guest this morning is my best friend and my wife, Lynne Kimpland, who is the Director of Children's Ministry until the end of the year, because you are retiring as of January 1st, and you also retire from youth ministry in August of this year and such. One of the things that's been fun to watch, and I haven't thought about it much until this week preparing for this show, is your vacation Bible schools. And how each of them in each of the 4 churches was different. Where Dickerson, a small group and such things of 40 people on a Sunday, that was a banner Sunday. To Seneca Castle, where we did that in the playground, I believe. Had to walk over to the playground for VBS. To the First United Methodist Church of Fulton, and the bounce houses and the water slides, and now to Endwell, that had to kind of go through a difficult time during COVID to have a virtual VBS.
Right.
Can you just share a little bit about that journey of vacation Bible schools? And each of them touched so many lives in the communities in which you did perform or directed the vacation Bible schools.
Well, our mission statement is to be rooted in God's love, to laugh often, and to live like Jesus. And so I think while planning all our vacation Bible schools, I used that as a grounding. I wanted to see kids laughing and having fun and learning about Jesus. And so I would follow the curriculum, sort of, but I would always add something that I thought, if I was a child, what would be fun? And this is where my passions come in. I remember at Seneca Castle, no, it wasn't Seneca, it was Fulton, where we did a live animal every day, every night of VBS. We had an alpaca come. You had a snake, a huge snake around your neck on one picture. And so I guess in my planning, I would kind of go off of what the curriculum would suggest and come up with these fun, crazy ideas. The problem that I had is getting other people on board with it and convincing them that this was going to happen. I remember when we first got to Endwell and we wanted to have the big water slide and just to have them get their heads around that. So it's been fun to watch that all emerge and such things with the vacation Bible schools, and we've been blessed over at the 4 churches that we've had leaders who were techie. Who knew at least the tech of the day. It was far different technology 40 years ago than it is today and such things. And I always remember they would always put like a PowerPoint or a collage together, or pictures about the vacation Bible schools. And the pictures, at least to me, that really stood out were the ones where the kids were just smiling or laughing, just having that unbridled joy in that safe environment with caring youth and adults leading them, which is kind of touched my heart over the years. So let me ask you this question that I ask almost all of my guests on the show. Over the last 40 years in children's and youth ministry, what got you out of bed in the morning?
What was the passion? What was the drive? And on the flip side, what are the things about children's and youth ministry that almost made you put the cover over your heads and stay in bed? Can you talk a little bit about both of those?
I think I wanted to give children something that I didn't have growing up, and I wish I did, just to give me a more grounded way to live. I had a very difficult time through my high school years, and I actually went to college to kind of get away from home and to kind of start fresh, and that's when I met you. But I think what gets me out of bed in the morning is if I could just touch one child to let them know that there is a God that loves them, that they are unique, that they were created for a purpose, that to be able to have somewhere to go and someplace to know that they are loved, and to just make that connection, to help them make that connection so they don't feel isolated, so they don't feel alone. Much of how I felt growing up.
What about the flip side?
The flip side of that, I think I love planning, and I love watching things be created from nothing. I mean, that I just have God has gifted me with a lot of gifts of creation and creating things, whether it's painting or putting programs together. I think the hardest part is the administrative part of that, where I have to figure out where the money is coming from, or recruiting people and convincing people that they could do this. Because a lot of people would say when I go to recruit, oh, I don't know the Bible very much, or I don't think I could do that. I think it was just to help people understand that they do have gifts and they could do certain things, but to kind of lead them in that direction so that they feel like they could have something to give.
Yeah.
And that's a frustration when they don't trust that ability that God has given them to step out and to do certain things.
Yeah, you can only hear no so many times.
Yes.
No, or I'll think about it, or I'll get back to you, and they don't.
Yes.
I can sense that to be a frustration, sure. We've got a few more minutes here, but I'd like you to just kind of have the floor for the next minute or so. Maybe there's folks that are listening and viewing this that are in children's and youth ministry, or maybe pondering it, or maybe they are people in churches that don't have a lot of children and youth. And I want to just give you a minute to just, why is it so important, especially in today's climate and culture and in the 21st century? What words of wisdom can you share with them as to how important this is?
I think we need to kind of change the idea of what church is. To me, it's almost like a community center where we bring the community into the life of the church. And yes, it's important to be in worship and to praise God and all of that. But I think on the flip side of that, there's another part that I think we're missing, and that is to have fun and to come together as a community, to open our doors and have fun events, to bring families together. When we do our trunk or treat, for example, this last Halloween was a beautiful 70-degree night, and to see all those families coming together and talking and laughing. Families are so busy right now, they just don't have that opportunity to just be together and to talk and to communicate. They're just running all over frantically, getting things that they need to get done.
Yeah.
So I just think it's important for churches to open their doors, to bring the community in, to have a fun environment where they can learn, where they can share, and where they can worship.
Awesome. Well, it's been a wild ride for 40 years, and you have been a blessing. You have made me look real good over the years in all the things that you have done, and it is very much appreciated, and I thank you for following God's call in your life to do just that. So,
thank you.
Thanks. Friends, I just want to take the next few moments to thank a few people. This has been an honor and a privilege to, over the last 11 years or so, to host this program. I want to thank Dave Alexander for first exposing me to this Encounter program, where Lynne and I came and we were interviewed, and I thank him for thinking of me and beginning really my ministry kind of emerged in this studio several years ago. I also want to thank Chris Miller, who is the producer of the Encounter program. I have always appreciated his professionalism, his friendship, and his flexibility, because one of the difficult parts of being a host is kind of, you have some spinning plates. You have to make sure come together so that we can record this show and make it a quality show that you will want to watch each and every week. I want to also thank all of the guests that have appeared on this set with me. I have learned so much from each and every one. I just have been blessed to be able to be put in a position where I meet someone I've never met before, probably meet them when I arrive here at the studio, and to have a 27-minute conversation with them is just an immense blessing, and to learn from each other. I have really, really learned so much about the services and ministries and programs that we are fortunate enough in Broome County to have at our fingertips, and the wonderful work that they do. I also want to thank those who have hosted alongside over the years. I've learned a great deal from you, but I specifically want to thank Reverend Joe Selapak, the Executive Director of the Broome County Council of Churches, for trusting me enough that once a month I can come here and have a quality interview. And I thank Joe for his faith in me, and also the Reverend Jeff Kellum. Jeff has been a dear friend and a wonderful mentor to me over his years of experience in radio and television. I appreciate those times he's put his arm around me and said, "Hey, I got an idea for you," or "I've got a suggestion for you," and I have certainly appreciated his mentorship. But I also want to thank you, the people who have and continue to watch the Encounter program. I know it is a blessing on this side of the camera, and I hope it is a blessing as you watch this each and every Sunday. And I would encourage, if there are folks that might think about hosting the Encounter program, to be in touch with the Broome County Council of Churches and touch base with Joe Selapak, because we are always looking for people to host this gift we call the Encounter program. So I thank you for 11 wonderful years. I have been blessed by it, and I hope that you have been blessed also. Merry Christmas, and have a wonderful New Year. God bless you.